Good evening. Welcome to East Gwillimbury Council. It's good to have you all here tonight. And we are meeting for our Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 meeting. And I'm going to call it to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Seeing none, we will move to our presentation, and I expect that that's what most people are here tonight to take in. So we will put it at the front of the agenda for everyone, and then you can get out before we finish off some of our other business later in the evening tonight. So with that, I understand that we have people who would like to speak, and we have some presentations as well. So Mr. Lehman, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The applicant's agents, applicant is Rice Commercial Group, and their agent is making a presentation with regards to the Overholt Pit Fill Management Plan.
Good evening. Good to have you with us tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. So my name is Katrina McCullough. I am with GHD. I'm an environmental planner with GHD. GHD has been retained by Rice Group to prepare the fill management plan for the proposed Holt Pit. And I'm one of the co-authors of the fill management plan. So my presentation this evening is going to be a summary of that fill management plan. So in terms of, I know many of you are familiar with the proposed site already, but it is a 20-hectare site on McCowan Road, south of Mount Albert Road, north of Harold. It is a former aggregate extraction pit that stopped operating in the mid-2000s, and prior to that it was agricultural. Since it was an extraction pit, it's currently a bit of a shallow bowl shape. Actually, if you can see, you can kind of see in the photo there. And so Rice Group is proposing to import an amount of fill that would return the site to its original topography. At that time, it would then be suitable for agricultural use in the future. That amount would be approximately 1 to 1.3 million cubic meters, and that would be imported over about 3 to 7 years. GHD and Rice Group have been working with town staff and your peer reviewer over the past few years to ensure that the proposed fill operations are done in compliance with the fill bylaw, of course. There have been, we have had public consultations related to this proposal. There was a public meeting in June. Staff provided a summary of that public meeting at the August Committee of the Whole meeting. Residents were notified of that public meeting and of the Committee of the Whole and of this council meeting, of course. And through this extensive consultation, this slide just highlights a few of the areas of interest that we have noted for residents. First of all, what is the need for the site? This project will return the site to, as I said, the pre-extraction conditions and make it ready for agricultural use. Truck traffic has been another area of interest, and I will go into more detail in the presentation on how the traffic will be managed. But just to say that the traffic management plan has evolved through the planning process to address concerns and minimize impacts to traffic. And finally, what is the quality of the fill being accepted to the site? And I think more importantly for the town, how can the town and Rice Group ensure that only acceptable fill is placed? So since the site is being returned to agricultural, only clean fill will be accepted. And there are several checks in place to ensure that this happens, which I will go into more detail on. So for the next couple of slides, I'm going to go through kind of a day in the life of fill, as it were, starting with how we determine what fill is acceptable, right through to the reporting and managing of those risks and contingencies. Before any of this happens, I will also mention that site preparation work, like there is a noise berm surrounding the site, that's all going to be done before any fill comes to the site. So starting with pre-approval, to clarify, this site is not open to the public. Someone can't just drive a truck with a load of fill up to the site. It does, source sites do have to be pre-approved. Those source sites must sample the soil that they are sending to the site first. That gets documented in a phase 1 soil report. That soil reports get sent to GHG's qualified person for review. If you're not familiar, QP is a designation legislated by the Ministry of the Environment to do this type of work. So we have a designated QP professional engineer for this site that will review those phase 1 soil reports. Once that report is reviewed and that fill is acceptable or determined to be acceptable, only then would GHG and Rice Group issue a bill of lading, and then fill can be brought to the site. Trucks must arrive from the south. These are the designated haul routes shown on the map. They would not be permitted to drive through the community of Holt. So they would come, the inbound trucks would come likely from the 404 or from the east, and then up McCowan Road towards the site. Trucks can only arrive on weekdays during the day. And when they get to the site, trucks are stopped at first the security station and then the office where the fill can be checked to ensure it matches what's on the bill of lading. And here's a closer view of the site itself. As I said, here is there's the entrance to the site. Here's the security station where trucks first stop, and then here is the office. This is an existing long asphalt driveway. It's about 260 meters long where trucks can queue, so they don't have to queue on McCowan Road. They'll be queuing in here if there is some trucks. Once the fill is inspected here, then trucks can proceed down a gravel driveway down to the actual fill area. There is going to be on site, anytime that fill is being accepted at the site, there is going to be a GHD staff person on site that's going to be under the supervision of that GHD qualified person. And that GHD staff will inspect all the fill that's coming in and also be doing the soil sampling on site. So if at any point they discover that fill is unacceptable, for example, if what they see on the truck doesn't match what's on the bill of lading, they can set that fill aside and do further sampling or instruct that it must be removed, that the source must take it back to an appropriate disposal site. Assuming that a fill is appropriate to be placed then in the fill area, then all of the loads get tracked by GPS, so we know exactly which load is where. Fill is generally going to be contained in one area, and the site is going to be filled progressively. So here is the lowest portion of the site, stage 1, followed by stage 2, and finally stage 3. Once a truck is unloaded, then it goes back up through the driveway. They have to pass through these mud mats and steel shaker racks to remove any excess mud. And then also the asphalt driveway will help with that because they have to drive through this asphalt driveway. And then again, exit this site south down McCowan Road. So as I said, there is going to be a GHD staff person on site to conduct that soil sampling. The sampling protocol is set up to ensure that there's at least one sample from every source that's collected and sent to a lab to confirm its quality. Those sampling results are confirmed by the GHD QP and included in the semi-annual reports. As I said, it's also all of the loads are tracked by GPS. So if at any time the sampling comes back that a load is not what it was supposed to be, it would be removed immediately. Again, in terms of those checks and balances and reporting, the town staff may of course visit the site anytime during operating hours to conduct inspections. The town will be provided reports on a monthly, semi-annual, and annual basis. There will be a phone number posted at the entrance to the site, so complaints or concerns about site operations may be received by either Rice Group directly or by the town. Rice Group will be required to respond to those any complaints immediately, at most within 2 business days. Also, at the town's request, the fill management plan contains quite a detailed risk management matrix. And what this does is really outline what are some of the unanticipated incidents or things that might happen that we may need to deal with. So, for example, if a driver is repeatedly found to be not following the haul routes or the traffic management plan, they could be suspended from the site. Or if a source site has sent unacceptable fill, they could be stopped from sending further material to the site. Of course, the semi-annual reports will include documentation of any of these incidents, such as rejected fill, as well as complaints, and documentation of how it was resolved. I mentioned groundwater and traffic being 2 areas of interest, so I've got 1 slide on each just to go into a little bit more detail on those. The primary objective of the fill, or one of the primary objectives, was to ensure that the filling operations doesn't affect groundwater and residential wells. Of course, all of the residents surrounding this site are on well water. So first of all, I will say that the water table is below the bottom of the site. So it's about, if this is the bottom, the lowest elevation of the current pit, the water table is about 2 meters below that. And groundwater flows generally in a southeasterly direction. So here's where most of the homes on well water are, and groundwater flows in this direction towards the southeast. So that, combined with, of course, the strict limits on fill quality, will mean that we don't anticipate fill to have any impact on groundwater or those residential wells. Of course, there will be monitoring to ensure that that is the case. And so what's shown on the figure here is the on-site monitoring network. These blue dots here, and here are the on-site monitoring groundwater monitoring wells that will provide early detection for any groundwater issues. Finally, traffic. Traffic impact analysis has been conducted and reviewed by the town, your peer reviewer, and the region. I will say that the volume that was analyzed, the 200 trucks per day, is the absolute maximum that we're asking for in terms of permitted truck volumes. In many days, it would be less than that, but we did want to be conservative in our analysis. And through the traffic impact analysis that was reviewed by those parties that I mentioned, it was confirmed that that would have a minimal impact on intersections and roads in the area. As an added measure, the region requested, York Region requested an eastbound left turn lane on Davis Drive at McCowan. So right here, so turning from Davis Drive onto McCowan. So they requested a left turn lane there, and they also requested a right lane taper at the site entrance. We're working with York Region to finalize those improvements. And last time this was at Committee of the Whole, we were advised of concerns about the intersection of McCowan and Harold. It's currently, well, as of a couple of days ago, it was a 2-way stop. We did an analysis, and that was a concern, it being a 2-way stop. So we did an analysis, presented that analysis to the region. York Region concurred with this analysis, and we're pleased that they responded very quickly. And I understand that as of today, that intersection is now a 4-way stop. As well, I talked briefly about the dust and mud tracking, and there will be a full-time sweeper and flusher truck on site as well to control dust and mud. So finally, in terms of next steps, I understand that staff will be bringing a report to council for consideration, and if approval is granted, then we would finalize the necessary agreements with staff execute the agreement, and operations would begin in 2020. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions of our presenter from our council? I'm not seeing any at this time. Mr. Webster.
Madam Mayor, if I may, could we put that last slide up? I think the actual next step is to, purpose of this evening is to hear this proposal and to allow residents and interested stakeholders to speak. So I'll leave that with you.
That's exactly where we're going. Thank you. Thank you very much. If there's no questions, we'll move along in our agenda then. So I know that there are a number of residents here who would like to speak. I believe you filled out a pink sheet of paper. If you haven't, there's still an opportunity to do so. I know we all understand that it is a very emotional time for you. This is these are your homes, and you want us to listen to your suggestions perhaps and your situations, and take that into consideration when a decision is made at a later time. So tonight is for our residents, so we can listen to you and understand where you're coming from. And just a couple of points. You will be allowed 5 minutes. If you're in the middle of a sentence, we certainly won't cut you off. But if I kind of do this or go, then it means we would wrap up. There are a number of speakers. We are here for the evening. If your points have not been made, I will ask at the end if anybody else wants to come up at that time, and you're certainly welcome to do so. We are a character community. We deal with courtesy and respect, and you'll see the banners around our chambers here that we deal with people with fairness, and we would ask the same of you when you come to the microphone. If you agree with the people that are speaking, then you can quietly agree with them, and if you don't, then you'll have an opportunity yourself to speak to the microphone. So with that, I don't think I've missed anything else. We're really looking forward to hearing from each of our residents. So with that, Mr. Lamanna, could you start with the first deputant, please?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, your first deputant is Mandy Goreski, and I believe Mandy had previously submitted a correspondence that is also listed on your agenda.
Welcome, Mandy. Good to have you with us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors. We are all beside ourselves with the thought of the application by Rice Group to operate the former Overholt Pit at 18725 McCowan Road. What were the chances of something like this happening in our neighbourhood again? You see, against the wishes of residents, we have had to do this once before. We've had to voice our opinion and endure the opening of the Mount Albert Pit a couple of years ago, located on Mount Albert Road. This pit is approximately 2 kilometres away from the proposed Holt Pit, with a license also to operate 200 trucks a day. The Mount Albert Pit is regulated by East Gwillimbury, and in its 2 years of operation, there have been incidences to cause great concern. We have been forced as a community to endure the incessant noise of these trucks coming and going, their smell of their diesel from their exhaust, their noise of them backing up and banging their tailgates as they are unloading, the dust pollution in the air, their traffic and operation violations, just to name a few. I myself have reported and have been negatively affected by the excessive amount of traffic on Mount Albert Side Road, where once a truck pulling out of the entrance of Mount Albert Pit in front of me almost caused a head-on collision. And I have also actually witnessed an accident where a lady was hit by a truck and injured in her vehicle opposite the entrance of the Mount Albert Pit. I've also reported trucks entering the Mount Albert Pit late at night at 10 o'clock and also operating at 10:30 in the morning. A copy of your records reveal a report by an independent licensed engineering consultant which stated that from 2018 to 2019, trace evidence of asphalt in the Mount Albert pit. It increased over 90% from year over year. From my understanding, asphalt is not permitted to be imported into the Mount Albert pit for the fill program. And I was also told by members of East Gwillimbury that every day the pit operates, paperwork should be produced to show exactly what fill is entering that day and that it is certified clean. So who is to be held responsible for asphalt being deposited into the pit? Clearly, there are some discrepancies, as your own records show. Why, Mayor, councillors, why would we think that would be any different if Holt Pit receives its licence to operate? Council must take into account that we are already bombarded with businesses in our area with excessive truck usage, noise and air quality issues, such as Dufferin Construction, which is an asphalt facility which now operates 24/7. This facility shares an entrance with the Mount Albert Pit on Mount Albert Road, and also Strata Aggregates, which is located directly opposite from the proposed Holt Pit, with many trucks in and out of that facility daily. I have been told by the bylaw office that they have no jurisdiction over Dufferin Construction and Strata Aggregates practices. How can that be? These businesses are located in East Gwillimbury Ward 3. They are currently applying for amendments in their environmental licenses with the Ministry of Environment, and unless we apply for a freedom of information from the Ministry, we have no idea as to what their future goal is. The residents should be allowed to know what is happening around them and for it to be transparent, as any alterations in license can greatly impact us. Who has our best interests at heart? The proposed Holt Pit site is literally steps away from residents whose lives and homes are located. And in my opinion, the addition of another pit would detrimentally reduce the property values in the area and affect the investments of many. All levels of government should work together and not pass up responsibilities to this community, from municipal, provincial, to federal governments, from the Ministry of Environment to the Ministry of Transportation, to regional police and fire departments. And until you have a full scope of its impact, you cannot make a clear and concise decision as to what the effects this proposal will have on all involved. Can you imagine trying to enjoy a stroll in the neighbourhood with your children, grandchildren, or even your pets, with hundreds of trucks on the roads, without any sidewalks or adequate street lightings on roads with dangerous blind spots? Or trying to enjoy an evening with your family in your backyard, to be interrupted by the sounds of trucks backing up, unloading and tailgates slamming and creating dust and air pollution in the area, to be forced indoors, and it for to be relentless. This is not only a safety hazard for all, but to our ecosystem as well, affecting the residents who have been an integral part of the community for decades. I cannot find one single solitary benefit to our neighbourhood in opening yet another fill pit. Council must oppose this application on behalf of all residents, as we are clearly at our breaking point. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure, Madam Mayor. Your next speaker is Diane Soucie, please.
Hello. This is going to be very hard to follow. I happen to live between Mount Albertside Road and the Strata Pit, and now we're proposing a third one. And what concerned me the last few weeks, busy outside doing yard work, you hear the beeping of the trucks backing up north, you hear it south. And in the past, when we complained about the strata, oh, we're too far from it, it doesn't affect us. But you know what? Noise travels. Strata is pretty good with their time, and we expect that if this goes through, the time has to be 7 to 5 with absolutely no excuses for any diversion from that. There was a lot of talk about York Region. And in the past, before Strata, every time we called the town, East Gwillimbury, they tell us to call York Region. We call York Region, they will go visit, they get kicked out of there because they have no business doing there. So this, if this ever goes through, we need to know exactly who we call when we have problems, because where my house is right now, there is nothing between the entrance to the new pit and my house. I'm the first one north of Harrogate, and there's nothing in between. So guess what? We're talking about trying to sit outside. We can't even keep our windows open in the summer. We're prisoners. And this one here is just going to add to it, because noise travels from Mount Alberside Road and south of us. And this is just going to add to it. And that's my addition, because
Thank you very much. I know you would like to support the people that are speaking, but this is not a sporting event, so could you please refrain from applause and have some decorum in the council chamber? Thank you. We are all supporting the people that speak here tonight.
For you, Madam Mayor, your third speaker is Janet Ray.
Are you surprised, Janet, that you're a speaker? Yes. Would you like to speak? Would you like to speak perhaps at the end? Would you feel better?
I just have to say that when I moved to this area 30 years ago, I was under the impression that this is a conserved area. The forest, the Vivian Forest, the woodland was going to be pristine because it was under conservation orders. Now you're putting pits and dumping stuff all over the place. This is purely a financial gain for the township. Nothing else. I mean, to say that it's going to be agricultural is a laugh. I mean, really, you're going to grow gold on that land when it's agricultural? No. The theme of the thing is the revenue that's gained by dumping loads from downtown Toronto on it. I mean, there's so many horrible pieces of land around, not further north. Is it the expense of trucking it further north that's deterring everybody? I mean, it's just immoral, totally immoral environmentally. And to have 200 diesel trucks. I mean, diesel's been banned in Europe. They don't have diesel trucks anymore. How many people are going to get cancer from the diesel trucks? It's totally immoral, this move. I mean, there was lots of alternatives. They could have come up the back way. I mean, there's a hatchery, a fish hatchery at the bottom. I mean, they're telling me it's wetlands. You can't build on it. It's wet. Oh, you can't build on it, but you can dump loads of bricks on it. It's wrong, morally wrong.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Mayor, next speaker is Wen Chan.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Given the time limit, I'm just going to go through things in point form. Please bear with me if it sounds a little bit terse. But
However you would like to express yourself, we're fine with that.
sure. So my first question was about the truck frequency. That's been answered. But I just want to point out that 200 trucks in a workday is a truck every 2.4 minutes. The second question I had was, I'd like to know who is sealing the report. I'd like to know what their PEO license number is.
Could you speak right into the microphone?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think maybe some people at the back are having trouble hearing you.
I'd like to know who's going to be sealing the report. I did a couple of checks on GHD. Their certificate of authorization only pertains to their address in Waterloo, 455 Phillip Street. The 140 Allstate address. I see no certificate of authorization to practice engineering in Ontario for that address. So I'd just like to know what's going on with that. I assume if Katrina was the one to prepare the report, that she'll either be sealing it herself or someone else at her office will be sealing it. If that's the case, what is their PEng number? Because I put her name into the registry and it came up blank for licensed engineers in Ontario. Next point. McCowan Road used to have a weight limit. It's 5 ton. That was only a couple years back. And about a year or two ago, the sign vanished. To my knowledge, there'd be no modifications to the road, which would allow it to carry, more weight. Just kind of curious what's going on with that, because these trucks are certainly over 5 ton. And as per the presentation, the sampling rate is 1 sample per 2,000 cubic meters. A typical truck holds between 10 and 20 cubic meters or cubic yards, they're close. So that works out to be, in a best case, 1 sample per 100 trucks. And if it's a smaller truck, it's 1 sample per 200 trucks. Hell, if I were trying to stuff things into a pit and not get caught, it'd be pretty darn easy if the sampling rate is, 1% to 0.5% of the loads coming in, right? And even if you sampled every single truck, the way people usually hide things is they put, the dirty stuff in one portion of the truck, usually in the inner corner, and clean fill over top. You dump it, usually it'll take a sample from a spot that's convenient. You've just gotten around the system. And it's even worse when you're only sampling 1 in 100 and 1 in 200 trucks. That's, a bit of a concern just based on what I saw in the presentation. Trying to see if there's anything else here on my list. Trucks, preparation report, weight limit, sampling. Nope, that's it. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I should let you know that we have staff here who are taking notes, and at the end of the presentations that you folks are making, I hope that we have a few of the answers. We won't have them all tonight, of course, but a few of the ones that staff can answer right up front might be available as we conclude the presentations.
Okay. Well,
okay.
I mean, it's pretty eye-opening if you pop onto the PEO site and do a search for GHD. Over the years, they've had their certificate of authorization canceled a few times. And,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dear Madam Mayor, next speaker is John Hernad.
Is John in the audience?
My apologies, Madam Mayor, if I've mispronunciated the last name. The owners at the residence of 18668 McCowan Road. Oh, Arnold, sorry.
Welcome, John. Good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I live directly across from the pit. I could probably walk across the street, throw a stone, and hit it. So that's how intimate I am with this process. And I think there's a lot of intimacy with the people here that live in this community with their land, because a lot of us are farmers. We moved to this area for a specific lifestyle, and we've watched our landscape around us change quite dramatically in the last little while. And 200 trucks a day is one thing, but compound that with the other pits around us, and the math becomes quite staggering. You can almost double that, which would be 1 truck every minute. And if you live there, you compound that with sweepers, water trucks, all the noise, and you're talking about people that have moved to this neighborhood for a specific reason, which is to be outside of the city and to get away from all that type of traffic and that hectic lifestyle. Myself, I operate an organic farm. We do everything holistically on our property, and to have this across the street from us is of grave concern. Our road is in poor shape as it is, and we don't have much of a shoulder. We have an extremely hilly road as well. I couldn't find a better word other than hilly. Sorry, everyone. And myself, I've been actually driven off the road with my children in the back seat by a dump truck coming in the opposite direction. And I fear if we allow trucks coming at the rate they're going to, we're going to have an accident. And we're all going to look at the financial gain of this pit and what we've compromised morally, ethically, environmentally, and for our community. And I don't think it's a worthwhile endeavor. I don't think we're looking for farmland of that class in our neighborhood. I don't think that we have an agriculture crisis that requires this development. And I think that our water table, our morals, and our community are at risk with this project. Also, the traffic, you describe Holt as being on the north end. Well, we would describe our community as being that entire street. The population density doesn't digress very much, meaning we all have small frontages and there's quite a lot of people that live on that entire tract. So when you look at the people being affected by it, it's quite grand. And there's going to be impacts to everybody. And unfortunately, a very small percentage of our population is going to gain financially from this. And that is a huge problem that keeps reoccurring within our society. So I think we all stand here objecting the pit and objecting the process of it. We don't think the gains are very much worthwhile. The road is in poor shape, and driving on our own street, walking on our own street, and enjoying our own properties in which we move there for is at risk. And I think that the investment people have put in emotionally and financially is at risk. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Through you, Madam Mayor, your next speaker is Angela Smith.
Good evening, Angela.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight to voice our concerns. A lot has already been said for some of my concerns, but one of my main points right now, Jonathan just brought up, is the way the road is right now. There's edges that are sort of falling down with, I don't know what you would call them, but the posts basically that are falling down. And my kind of thoughts moving forward, just the road safety, where are they going with that? Like, are they going to be doing some improvements beforehand to make it a little bit safer? What about afterwards? The road's in pretty poor condition, as Jonathan Arnold just said. So I do have some concerns for the corner of Mount Albert. That's not part of rice groups and everything going on tonight. But the infrastructure right now with regards to the roads is concerning to me, the safety. There's quite a bit of degradation to potholes and such everywhere. And then I'm just thinking about Davis Drive. I'm glad to hear they're doing the turn lane in that, but with the amount of traffic that you see early in the mornings, later at night, the amount of traffic, those trucks coming in and out, and we all know, truck drivers there's a lot of good truck drivers, but then, and it's just like people in public, everybody, sometimes driving's not the best for people and truck drivers, but we do know that sometimes those trucks really do pull out quite quick. And just for the safety of those coming along Davis Drive and coming down that hill, that kind of begs a big alarm to me. Just used to live in Uxbridge and over on Davis Drive, and coming down over that hill and cars pulling out very quickly. I see that as a major accident site in the future as well. So I just thought I'd mention that tonight.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Mayor, those are all the speakers that have identified that they wish to speak, although we have a lot of additional pink sheets that maybe would wish to come up at this time.
At this point, I'm just let me finish. At this point, if there's anyone that hasn't filled out a sheet and would like to speak, this is your opportunity to come to the microphone now and do so. If you would introduce yourself and let us know what your address is, just so we're keeping track of where everyone lives, then we're here tonight to hear from our residents. So if you didn't fill out a sheet and you want to come up now, please do so. Okay, so it looks like we have a speaker here, and if there's others that would like to do so, when the microphone is empty, then the next person could come up, and as I said, we're here to listen for the evening. So just because you didn't fill out a paper doesn't mean that you can't talk to us and let us know what your opinions are.
My name is Scott Ray. I'm Janet Ray's son. She's at 18381 McCowan. My concern is solely for safety and road design. My background is I have about 15 to 20 years experience in road design work. And I can tell you right now that McCowan Road is not sufficient in its design to handle the amount of traffic that it's proposed today to have. By putting a four-way stop at Harold and McCowan, you're not going to stop the trucks that are coming over that hill at 100 kilometers an hour, which I've seen them do. They're not going to stop at that intersection, and you're going to kill people. There's been a few accidents there already. I've almost been killed myself a couple of times coming out of the driveway. And for my 80-plus-year-old mother, it's an accident waiting to happen. And I don't want to be in a situation where I have to come after the town to do that. The intersection at Davis Drive and McCowan has to be a full stoplight with 20 more trucks. You can't put a turn lane in there. It's impossible. You're going to back up traffic along Davis Drive and cause more accidents. And as far as I'm concerned, the road itself has to be completely redesigned to handle any more traffic than what it's getting right now. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have my sheet that says R. Lehman, Regina and Ross Lehman of 18882 McCowan Road. Thank you, Mayor Haxon and councillors, for listening to us tonight. The point I want to make is what a lot of people have mentioned tonight. Because of the three pits, I would like to request that council give due diligence to the existing traffic on McCowan Road between Mount Albert Side Road and Davis Drive. That includes the Mount Albert traffic, the Davis traffic going to the Mount Albert pit, and the Strata pit traffic. We're not addressing it right now because the presentation is for the Overholt Pit. However, there are so many trucks with the Strata pit today, I think probably more than the Overholt Pit. And that has to be taken into consideration in your consideration for the application for the Overholt Pit. The number of trucks, where Dr. Angela's vet clinic is, that is a recipe for accidents all the time. The trucks are slamming on their brakes. We have school buses with children coming off. A family just moved out of McCowan Road, and my husband asked them, "What was your thinking to move here?" And they said, "I don't know, but we have to get out because it's so dangerous for the children." Diane Soucie, she's worked with the police. She can clock them. She doesn't need to have a radar thing. She's a personal radar person and knows the speed limits. And these trucks are exceeding the speed limits. That's our experience today, and I don't think it will change in the future. I just ask the council to consider the traffic from Strata, from Mount Albert Pit, in addition to the Overholt Pit, and consider yourselves living on that street and how you would like to have all this traffic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
We did have an additional speaker, fill out a sheet, Jerry Soucie.
I have someone at the
Come on up, I'll fight you
microphone. So, are you Jerry?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, Jerry, you're at the microphone, so we'll let you speak.
You're up next.
All right, sounds good.
Hi, my name is Jerry Soucie at 18862 McCowan. I'm Diane's husband. We've been here for 31 years on McCowan Road. We've seen the extraction of all the gravel from the original pit. We were happy to see that end, only to see Strata start up with twice as many trucks as there were before, and now we want to look at even doubling that. There have been many arguments here about pollution and so forth and so forth. I'm a retired banker. What I want to know is if you approve this thing, how much revenue will the township generate? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Your name? Hi, Mike.
My question is the train. Has anybody considered that? How much traffic is that going to back up? And you keep talking, we have 200 trucks here, but we don't have an actual number out of Strata or out of the other pit. So do we have a physical number of how many trucks are traveling on that road? And then the amount of times the train passes and how much traffic that's going to hold up. Right? And then Davis Drive at the end of the day. Same thing. It's a bad, bad move. Bad move. You don't want it in your backyards, right? We don't want it in our backyards either. Think about that. That's the part you got to take home with you. When you sit down at dinner with your family, do you want this in your backyard? Probably not, right? Make the right choice.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. My name is Julie Jonas, and I'm the spouse of Mike who just spoke. I think that's a great point that he brought up. The train does oftentimes take 15 minutes, and you sit there. And so having one truck, every minute sort of thing is going to back that up. A lot of people here have spoken about their backgrounds and understanding how that's going to impact their day-to-day life and their understanding of what's important here. I'm a psychologist. Moving out to the country was a very big deal for myself and my family in terms of mental health, quiet, peace, and so on. We were surprised, and perhaps we didn't do our due diligence before moving in to understand the number of trucks that are already going by. We do not have a very deep driveway where we live, and you can hear it even with the windows shut, with the blinds shut, you hear all the trucks go by all day long. And it is disruptive. And so to add another 200 trucks a day is appalling. It's completely going to destroy our peace and quiet. Our families are going to be impacted. The noise alone, we're already dealing with the noise from the train. We're already dealing with the noise from Strata, and it does cause a serious problem. So that is one of my main concerns. Another main concern that I have is to do with the speed that the trucks are currently going. It is obviously a problem. I do not believe that the four-way stop is going to make a difference to that, because currently people need to slow down anyway to go over those railroad tracks, which are not set up for any sort of regular speed. You have to go down to about 30 or 40 kilometers to go over them without destroying your car. And these trucks go by definitely over the speed limit. The speed limit is 50 in that area, and they go by over 80 for sure, to your point. Extremely fast. Yeah, it's very fast. I agree. And we have young children, we have pets, and yeah, we would like to experience life outside and not be afraid that something's going to happen. To add on to this, the nature of the road being very hilly, is the words that were used. They are. Our driveway is a blind driveway. Our neighbor's driveway is a blind driveway. And they even have a mirror outside their driveway so that they can see who's coming. These trucks that are going 80, 100 kilometers an hour on McCowan Road, which is a residential road, agricultural road, there's no way. Right now, for where we live, to be safe, we have to pull into the oncoming traffic lane to make sure that we won't hit someone coming quickly over that hill. So with the addition of all these trucks, I'm very concerned about our safety. So those are my two concerns right now.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to take the microphone?
You do have my sheet that I filled out, but I put maybe because talking in this situation is not my favorite thing. I like one-to-one. But going through, listening to people, my concern is I've been in situations listening to people is like, what are these people that are owning this pit? What are they going to be doing for these residents? Yes, on Monday, East Granbury starts their budget time. And for Monday and Wednesday, yes, maybe some of the residents will come out to see if their McCowan Road, if there's a money for 2020 for their road coming up. It'd be nice to see other people during budget time when you have concerns about the road to see if there is going to be some money put aside for that. I am concerned when that young man came up and said about testing the trucks. And if there's 200 trucks, that one over 100 or one over 200. And that concerns me for residents of that area. I don't live on McCowan Road, but I have an investment when it comes to East Granbury, and I've had from day one, living in this area for 35 years. And it, anything to do with Ward 3 concerns me the most. No offense to Holland Landing and Sharon, but in Ward 3, I am concerned. And I just would like to, hear that from after you listen to these people, that Mr. Rice and his group and the town staff will get together with these concerned residents. And obviously, this is going to go ahead. You can't stop progress, but you can come to a happy situation, hopefully, between council, who's representing these. You've got two councilors representing these people tonight. And that's my concern is I hope that something positive, even if it's to improve the road construction, improve the checking the soil, whatever it is, to have something positive. And I'll stop now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. Just a correction, there are 7 people here that are representing the residents. 2 live in the area, but there are 7. No, it's okay.
No. You're. As of a year ago, yeah, there was all of you when you were at large. I realize that as council, you're all, but if you're going under the ward system, you usually under the ward system where go towards your councilors and then voice out from there. And yes, the mayor is for everybody, and yes, the other people and now the councilors. But I'm just saying, since you're on a ward system, I'm talking about those 2. I realize that others are included too. And it's a good thing because we have good 7 people for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I'd like to speak.
Please come forward.
I do apologize. I missed the beginning. There was probably a presentation, and I was wondering what table of soil was going to be put in there, what tables were going to be allowed. And if it were a high table, that means that it's very clean. And, you know, I can appreciate trying to fill in the area. It'll bring a little prosperity. We're residents. We live right across the road. You know, all the soil, it's good farm soil. It's coming from most of the subdivision lots. And it's what we've all eaten our vegetables from for all these years. And we all seem to be reasonably okay. Maybe an option is trucks licensed with an MOE number are not allowed in there. And that kind of helps things like any contaminated fill coming from any of these sites that are ministry regulated, these trucks are allowed in there. If they don't have a license, they can't be in there. One more thing to help stop some contaminated fill coming in. I know it's hard to stop things, and I don't mind it, but as long as it's regulated and it's clean, and I don't know if the property even touches 48, but is there a potential way of putting a driveway in from 48? I don't know. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And your name?
Jack.
Thank you, Jack. Is there anyone else that would like to come to the microphone at this time? Welcome. Good to have you with us tonight.
My name's Alison Firth, and I live at 17734 McCowan, which is in between the tracks and Davis Drive. I currently have trucks from Strata going past my house, measured in minutes with frequency. My house is 200 yards back from the road, and I hear those trucks in my house all day long. The notion of having another potentially 200 trucks going past my house, a house that I bought 20 years ago because I wanted to live in the country, is pretty difficult to imagine. It's a school bus road, and I really feel that there's no benefit to any of us and a lot of benefit to the Rice Group. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Right across the road as well. And if it was filled in, I think it would make the area look a lot better and be a little bit more environmentally friendly. Fill that hole in and cap it off so no water goes down in. And yeah, and as far as the traffic goes, by the time they fill it in, it'll take about 2 years, I recommend, to fill that thing in, because there's no place to dump dirt. And this guy right across the road's been there for, I think he's been there for about 50 years, the owner of the property. So he has property rights too, you know, and he's been there before the lady back here has been there for 20 years. He's been there for 50 years, you know, so we have to have a little respect for the people who've been there all these years as well. So, yeah, I'm all for the guy. Let him go ahead and do what he has to fill that hole in and make it nice. Thank you. And it's more environmentally friendly instead of trucking this stuff way all over, causing traffic everywhere else. Let him bring it in the side roads and fill it in. And, you know, you have to have an area to fill these areas in. You can't just say, let's take our garbage down to the States and cause noise pollution, air pollution, trucking, traffic. I mean, let's use our heads and common sense. No more of this not in my backyard sort of thing. Like, we got to smarten up here and be more environmental friendly and dump it in the area where it comes from. I mean, they're building all these new homes in Newmarket. Let's give the guy a chance to fill that area in. I mean, he dug it out. Let's fill it in. Thank you.
Thank you. What is your name, please?
Harry.
Harry? Thank you.
What's your address?
Directly across
The number. The resident.
Please.
18564.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? I know we have staff here that Mr. Newman has been taking a lot of notes, and there's a lot of questions, and Mr. Webster, our CAO, has also been taking notes, and I'm not sure which one would like to speak first. Mr. Webster?
Madam Mayor and members of council and folks in attendance tonight, normally I would like to suggest that answering questions would be the best. People are here, they want to hear answers, but I think given the breadth and number of different issues that have been raised, I think we owe it to those in attendance to firstly establish a point of contact. I heard there was no point of contact from the town. Tyler Dukovich is a town employee who's in charge of our fill program under Mr. Newman, and he is available for any resident and the applicant to liaise with. So I would suggest that we do a better job of communicating Tyler's contact coordinates so that folks can not only just speak tonight in 1 hour and 1 minute, but there might be some issues that they still want to bring up. And so that we can have the full list of resident and stakeholder concerns brought to the table. I think through our staff, we would then compile all of these questions and do the best job we can to bring back full factual answers to the best we can to a future council meeting. And at that time, I think we should advertise it to this group of folks here as well, the residents, so that they can actually see in writing the questions asked and the answers to the many questions. And not to say that the answers will always be answers people want to hear, but there's been many issues raised tonight, and I've been around the town for 15 years now that are the first for me that I've heard on some of these applications. So I think that we will do as best a job we can of working with the resident group and with the proponent, and we'll commit to bringing back in 2020, sometime in the January, February timeframe, to a evening meeting, the answers and that would allow some further dialogue and for some further direction and potential decisions by council.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. I think that makes the most sense. There were many questions of a variety of concerns. Unlike some other meetings that we have here, there's maybe one or two issues that people are wanting answers for. I've kept track, and I have 22 different concerns that people have that are not the same as others. So I would hope that we could look at January. I know that that's going to maybe not be the best traveling weather for residents, but we will endeavor to have it earlier than later. The longer it goes on, the more questions you have, you don't have your answers. And so I'm not sure what our cycle is for the end of January, but I would hope that unless there's something that prohibits us from meeting at that time with this group, then we would like to do it as earlier than later. I also, Mr. Webster, you're asking, you're directing staff to put them all together and to meet with people. The suggestion for these people, and some that aren't here tonight, they're going to go home and these people are going to talk to their neighbors, and there's going to be other people. What might be the suggested route of getting their questions on the list as well?
I will rely on Mr. Newman and our communications director, Laura Hanna, but I think we can certainly put a little portal on our website through the newspaper as well as a key contact person for this project. And I'll maybe pass it to Mr. Newman if he has any other thoughts at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm hoping that most of the people in the audience tonight did receive letters, notices that were hand-delivered, as well as the newspaper. So if any of the residents here, we've also been amassing an email list that we've been trying to, any information that comes out. If anybody has not provided any information tonight, I would ask that maybe you fill out one of the pink sheets just indicating your interest. So if there's any information, additional meetings that come out, I will make sure that you receive information through email, or if there's another form of contact that you would like, we will continue to do the handout notices to the areas along McCowan. And again, if there's anyone else that would like to be included, please fill out the sheets and we'll make sure that you're added to our list.
I might suggest, thank you very much, Mr. Newman. I might suggest also that we have email and website that you could send in as well. And lots of people bring in envelopes with letters here. If it's on the weekend or after hours, we do have a mail slot out the front. So if you're talking to other neighbors and friends, we want to hear from everybody the concerns that everyone has. While we have many concerns tonight, I expect that there may be others, something very different that we haven't heard, and we would like to address it all at the same time. So I would ask that you've taken the time to come out tonight, but if you could also be an ambassador and share a little bit as well with those that were not here tonight. You can ask a question.
On how this process may unfold, and when do you have a sort of an end date on when you'll actually be making a decision about this proposal?
We will not be making a decision until we have all of the information in front of us and we're able to evaluate everything that we have heard tonight, hear from staff, hear from the applicant. So I'm not sure what our timing is, but we won't be making a decision until we're satisfied that we have everything that we need to make a decision for our community.
Thank you.
I know that's very vague, but we have a lot of questions now, and we would like all those questions answered. Okay. Councillor Roy DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too have been listening intently, and I had a couple of questions that didn't come out from some of the residents, and so I thought it might be helpful to just so that we could consolidate everything. I guess my first one was something that had come out during our last process, which was why would we ever consider this in the first place? And having a bit of a preamble to understand why this process exists, why there is the ability for a landowner to consider having a commercial fill operation on their land and so on. So what's that mechanism? Why are we even considering it? And how does that all, take 3 steps back for a second and have a look at that. The applicant had a presentation showing the different stages of fill. Stage 3 seemed to be awfully close to McCowan Road, so I wanted to have an understanding of the historic extraction of fill, where that gravel extraction activity took place, and I wanted to ensure that any fill that was being done was in that spot and not in a larger area, so that it was really and truly a true rehabilitation rather than a commercial fill operation. My question was also whether the applicant would consider having a video at the gates. We've had that with other applicants. We've discussed that. I wanted to understand the rationale between annual versus something like quarterly report. An annual report seemed a little light as far as I was concerned. I'd like to hear more often about how things were going if this were to be approved. I wanted some clarification on the maximum of 200 trucks a day. Is that an average, or is that a hard limit so that there wasn't 50 trucks one day and 300 trucks the next, but it averages out okay? I wanted to make sure that that was clarified. As well, there was some talk about testing, wellhead testing and so on site. Was there any contemplation of testing adjacent residence wells as well on the private property? Was that being something that was being discussed with their neighbors? I think that was probably the last of them. I think everything else was kind of covered by residents, but I thought it would be helpful to have those things as well. But for me, it was mostly, we need to speak to the why we would even consider this in the first place, and then answer our questions. Thank you.
I'm sure that people out in the audience and all of us across here will be adding to that list as time goes on for sure, and making sure that all of the questions are answered. Seeing no other questions at this time and no speakers, I'm prepared to move forward now at this time. I would like a motion, be it resolved that the presentation and comments regarding the 18725 McCowan Road Overholt Pit Commercial Fill Permit application submitted by Rice Commercial Group be received. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persicini, Councillor Morton, all those in favor? and that's carried. We will be moving on to the rest of our agenda now. Be rest assured, we're not going to be talking about this any longer tonight. We have another portion of the agenda, but you will be certainly contacted when we will be speaking to this again. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, we have a full agenda still in front of us here, so we'll get started on it. We're at deputations. Mr. Clerk, do we have any deputants?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item E is our committee recommendations. That's pages 24 to 26. Are there any questions on the committee recommendations? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
There were two. I wanted to pull number 265 for a separate and recorded vote, and number 269, I wanted to have a bit of discussion. I just needed some clarification from staff. 265 for a separate and recorded vote, and 269 to be pulled for discussion.
The topics of both of those?
One is the Angus Morton Crescent application. Just wanted to have some clarification with respect to the retaining wall. And the other one is the consolidated traffic and parking bylaw.
Okay.
And if you'd like, I'm happy to move all the other ones. That makes it easier.
Yes, that would be fine. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Persicini. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, let's deal with 265, and I believe you wanted a recorded vote.
Yeah, I just was looking for a recorded vote simply because this was such a long time in coming, and I know we've been discussing this at least since I've been on council, probably even before, but I wanted to commend staff. They've been working on this, the ones who are here now since 2016, and they're the ones who get the credit for carrying it over the finish line. I think it's an important change, and I wanted to reflect that through a recorded vote.
Thank you very much. Noisy group out there.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we need a mover and a seconder for 265.
I can move it.
Moved by Councillor Roy DeClemente, seconded by Councillor Crothers.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Roy DeClemente is requesting a recorded vote on CWC recommendation 2019-265. It's up on the screen before you. Councillor Roy DeClemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crothers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Haxon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Morton, how do you vote? Yes. Councillor Persicini, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
The motion is carried. thank you so much for all the work that you've done on that project. I just don't know what you would be doing in the morning after the amount of weeks and weeks and months and hours you've spent on this. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. And 269.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just a mover and seconder.
Moved by Councillor Morton, seconded by Councillor Foster. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to staff. When we had addressed this at the committee level, I requested a bit of information with respect to the retaining wall. So this is a subdivision where the municipality would be assuming responsibility for retaining wall. And I was just looking for confirmation that there would be some kind of a contribution towards life cycle replacement cost built into the subdivision agreement.
Please.
Certainly, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, there will be. We've had discussions among staff and with the applicant. There'll be a condition, a financial condition placed in the subdivision agreement that will deal with that retaining replacement cost for that retaining wall, which will be within the town's road. So we will ensure that that cost will be reflected in the subdivision agreement moving forward.
Would it be helpful if we were to provide a direction to staff, or is it something that's going to be done regardless?
It'll be done.
Thank you.
Sounds like it's already on its way. Very good. Okay. So number 269, we have a mover and a seconder. We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? And that's carried. Mr. Labana?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have 3 recommendations from earlier at today's Committee of the Whole. We'll put them up on the screen, and again, you can vote on them together or individually and or have recorded votes.
So the first one that we have here is regarding the calendar that we were talking about, providing with the High Holiday Faith calendar.
Through you, Madam Mayor, these 3 recommendations all stem from the Diversity Inclusion Advisory Committee Report 2019-01, considered earlier today. The recommendations of that report, if you recall, were separated. So we've just listed them out here separate just for council discussions.
Councillor Roy DeClemente and then Councillor Crothers.
I believe there was a clause that didn't pass, and that's not included here. Yeah, so
there were 4.
There were 4, and now there are 3. So I think we can. I'm happy to move this. Or perhaps Councillor Crothers would like to. I don't think we need to separate them out at this
point. Through you, Madam Mayor, the 4th clause that is not listed here is the defeated resolution.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Crothers, to move. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Roy DeClemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have minutes, adoption of the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes, pages 27 to 46. Moved by Councillor Persicini, 1, 2, and 3. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Crone. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. We have correspondence for consideration. In my agenda, we had a revision. There is a number 2. So we'll start with number 1, and that's the Cool Cruising Car Show Committee annual report that has been submitted by them on their activities for the summer. When I saw it, I thought that I was hoping that other committees would have such a comprehensive report as well, day by day, every time they met, and the weather as well. and the attendance, and I'm hoping perhaps that our farmers market could do something similar, because they met once a week, and certainly for a group like that, there were problems on days when the weather wasn't good. So it might be good to just have a record of it down the road. But we don't have it here today, but we do have that one. So the Councillor Foster, would you move the correspondence? Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Crone. That's number 1. All those in favor? And that's carried. With thanks to the committee, they did a great job this year. Second one is correspondence from our Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and it's regarding a place to grow, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Mr. Ramuno, do you have some comments? Have you insight into this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do. A bit of background. I think Council recalls I have reported on this in the past a couple of times with respect to the province's plan for their objective for increasing the housing supply as part of their More Homes and More Choice action plan. This letter really was intended to provide a clarification to the regional and local municipalities with respect to the ongoing work that some of the regions are now in the midst of with respect to their MCR, their official plan updates. And this letter specifically speaks to clarification that the province is indicating that urban boundary expansions at the local level are allowed, and they've gone on to state that, the 40-hectare boundary expansions are permitted, and they're also permitted. There's no limit to the number of requests that a municipality can deal with, and they can actually be private applications. And again, this is all in the spirit of their increased housing supply plan. And if you recall, I provided council with a number of reports in the past, back in May and July, and there was a workshop in June that dealt with our future official plan work and our planning for future growth, and including our current White Belt lands, which are future urban area lands, as part of the region's current MCR process, that they consider those to be included during this round. That way the town could take the lead in planning for our future growth, as opposed to dealing with private applications moving forward, and we'd get into sort of ad hoc planning. We'd be in the driver's seat, and we can then also deal with, in conjunction with the region, including those appropriate phasing policies and secondary plan policies with respect to how we want to see these areas grow out, when and how they're going to be developed. There's a lot of work that will have to occur moving forward, but at this point, it's dealing with the urban White Belt lands, having those included as part of the region's current OP update. And my intent would be to come back with another report to request council formally endorse that request, so that be sent to the region. And again, that's for the purpose of the town being in control of our future planning.
How quickly can we get there?
For you, Madam Mayor, I can have that type of report prepared even for the December cycle.
Thank you. Thank you. It certainly is an opportunity for us. It was one that I thought the door was shut, and we continue to have residents in the community looking for a variety of housing options, and we just don't have them. So if we can capture this now, I think it's a terrific opportunity for East Gwillimbury. Thank you. Any questions? I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Persicini, Councillor Foster. All those in favor, and that's carried. We look forward to the first part of December. And the last one I have here is a report from Development Services Part Lot Control Exemption from Regal Crest. Please.
Certainly, to you, Madam Mayor. So the memo is dealing with the 3 individual part lot control bylaws that are before council this evening. Again, there are 3 separate ones. One is submitted by Regal Crest, second is Aspen Ridge, and then again Rosehaven, and they're all for the purposes of creating the individual townhouse blocks in each of those plans of subdivision.
Thank you. Questions? I'm not seeing any questions at this time. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have no resolutions at this time, and we have 3 bylaws.
Madam Mayor, there are 4 bylaws.
Yes, I didn't turn the page. Thank you. 4 bylaws. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Persichini. All those in favor? That's carried. Item K is other business. Do we have any other business before us at this time? Seeing none, we have a confirming bylaw. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Morton, Councillor Roy DiClemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. And we will adjourn our meeting at 8:26. Moved by Councillor Crone, seconded by Councillor Persichini. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.